tuning in. Until next time,
be safe
and be well.
Up next, Worth the Conversation with Jeezy. Can I say Young Jeezy?
Yeah, you can.
Hey, I'm Dr. Sean, and I want to welcome you to Fox Soul's Father's Day special, From Fatherless to Fatherhood. As fathers of amazing sons, I can honestly say that one of the most important relationships in my life, and certainly in theirs, happens to be the one that I share with my children. It's indelible, it's life-changing, and nothing has done more to make me into what I was supposed to be than being connected to these boys. You see, one of the most important things that I've learned as a dad is that it's not all about me. You cannot raise a great child and be a small man. Narcissism and selfishness are the things that will always kill the ambition. And let me remind everybody who thinks this not to be the case. Fathers who forsake their children make their love restless and heap scorn upon the works of their hands. It is the great work of my life, the great call of my existence, to be able to put my wisdom and my love on these little lives that God has entrusted me to give to the world. And that's what every father should understand himself to be, that he is an entrustee. He is a trustee. You were trusted by the universe and by life to give birth to something that will outlive you, that might even be greater than you. And we have to have the humility to accept that and to understand it and to make it a part of what we celebrate. I today say to all of you that what makes this day so great and so special is that we begin to understand the secret to the science of building a man and building a woman, because they're not born, they have to be made. And now, Fox Soul's Father's Day special, From Fatherless to Fatherhood.
From Fatherless to Fatherhood, take one.
I try to think about decisions I make in parenting.
I'm proud to be an African-American father, a real father.
I want to eat this.
You know, the feeling of not having a man in my life, a dad in my life. And with that, it just makes me go that much harder.
What I've learned about being a father is really not about money. It's really about time.
I don't want my time being so much his boy that I don't bless him. You know, being his boy is a component, but it's not my primary role. My primary role is to be his father.
It just always does seem like there is just a little piece that you do wonder about, and you know, you want to know, is there someone, who do I look like? You know, what is the other side of the family like?
I didn't even realize the effects of not really having a father until I had children or was in real deal relationships. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's when you realize it impacts you.
A feeling that somebody loves you unconditionally and that you're in control of that person's life and their future is something that, I mean, I can't understand how somebody can take that power and use it negatively.
Father means a protector of his family, provider, and gives lots of love and wisdom and knowledge, especially about God. That's what a father means to me.
Well, it's kind of funny. My father, my entire life was about 15 minutes away. He lived on Lyons Avenue in Newark, on Leslie, right off of Lyons Avenue on Leslie Street. So it wasn't like he was in another state or somewhere where he couldn't find me. He knew where I was. I knew where he was. One birthday, he brought me two pair of Swedish knit pants, which were the pants that were in back then, because my mother would never buy me name brand stuff. So when he brought the pants, they were too big. So he said he would take them, tailor them, and bring them back. That was the last I saw of those pants, and that was the last I saw of my father. The next time I didn't speak to my father. The next time I heard about my father was that he was out in his backyard drinking with some of his friends from work, and he got so drunk that he fell and hit his head on the garage, and he got knocked out. So his friends, being that they were drunk too, instead of taking him to the hospital, they took him and put him in the bed, not knowing that his brain was hemorrhaging, so he died in his sleep. So I got a call that my father had died and that they needed me to pay for his funeral. So I went down, paid for the funeral, buried him, and the ironic thing is that I buried him on the day of my birthday, my 37th birthday.
I had a baseball game, and my father told me he was coming. So I was sliding into first base. I was going crazy because I'm thinking he was there watching, but he was never there, you know. My mother came, but he never showed up. You know, I called him, he never calls me back. Sometimes you wait on somebody that'll disappoint you.
I don't think it's all right for the father to leave. Children need a father.
There is a whole number of issues that present these unique hurdles, I think, to black men in particular in the United States. You find that there's a lot of practices that may not be the result of racism directly, but seem to be institutionalized practices where people have patterns and habits in terms of how they interact or deal with black men. Whether it's a basis of intimidation or it's a basis of suspicion, I'm finding that the more pockets you have of those institutionalized practices, the more hurdles and things that are being put up.
When you're locked up, you're not in control no more, and you leave your children at the expense of the street. You leave the women to be at home unprotected.
Not taking away from people's voluntary actions, whether they choose a life of crime or other things, but those pressures, I think, are a key part of what causes the absence of black men in the homes.
The drugs it really stagnated me with the rest of my children and holding me back for being a real father, what a father's supposed to be. The Jaheim record, Finding My Way Back, makes sense to me because, you know, he made a lot of mistakes. I guess he's saying he made a lot of mistakes and he's trying to get it right. I made a lot of mistakes in my life. And, you know, I'm just trying to get my act together. It's a struggle, you know, every day through certain situations and things I've done wrong to people that love me, that care about me.
Often it's fear. And it's also a lack of commitment to children. And so you have very young men having children now, and they really don't know how to rear these children, and they know it.
It was very difficult. My oldest daughter was born when I was 18. I was about a senior. I was a senior then. I had to I stopped going to school. I started getting high and using about at the age of 20. Maybe we started out with the weed. It's a gateway drug to everything else. And the reason why I can't be a father probably because of a lot of, maybe it's due to my addiction and a lot of different things. When I raised my youngest daughter, it was all right. I wasn't into drugs like that. It was, you know, a couple years before I even indulged.
The reasons that I think that men walk out on their children are two: the man and the woman. We'll start with the man. A lot of brothers don't feel like they have to they just don't have to. In many cases, they were mama's boys themselves. They grew up with, there's always a woman who is willing to take responsibility for something that they did. And to find an excuse, it started when they were children, arguing with teachers and principals, all the way up through the rest of their life. There was always someone there. The coach don't like you, that's why he didn't play you. Going in there fussing with the coach now. Teacher don't like you, that's why he didn't give you a grade. Now going in talking to the teacher. There's always been that woman there who's always, or a weak father figure who hasn't said, you did this. I don't care if it feels like it's unfair. You did it. Even if you were a little wrong, that's enough for you to take a lot of punishment so that you ain't ever a little wrong again, because a little wrong is wrong. Then, this is the side of it that we never talk about. I talk to a lot of parents, a lot of sisters, and some of these folks are hard to get along with. Nobody ever talks about that, but after a while you think, man, I just can't even imagine any man was with you.
That's a cop-out, that I don't get along with your mother, so I can't be around you. I mean, you got along with her enough to make a baby with her, you know what I mean? So that's, I mean, the two main things is not wanting to accept responsibility and using the excuse of your mother. You know, your mother kept me away from you, or, you know, me and your mother didn't get along, so that's why I didn't, you know, I wasn't involved in your life.
I just, you know, some guys just can't accept responsibilities. They can hardly take care of themselves. They hardly really take care of themselves, so taking care of another life, it seems impossible to them, you know, so they run. You know, they run in fear of failure.
Like, I didn't know how to approach a girl, a female at all. I didn't know what I was doing.
And listening to the people trying to teach you
listen to people that teach you
like,
wrong ways. How to they teach you kind of how to disrespect women, man.
Yeah, basically.
They don't even teach you how to respect women out here. That's kind of funny.
But the funny part is sometimes when you go at them respectful, they want you to be disrespectful.
Because they don't know what they don't know anything either. They don't have their fathers to respect them either.
The impact of father absence while I was a judge, I experienced most in the truancy court. So I handled the cases where you basically had troubled kids who were dealing with issues, everything from absences of fathers to drug abuse and a number of things. But the striking thing was that most often you found that a father was absent from the home with those kids who had the most problems. I think you find it very prevalent in poorer communities, but even in homes where people come from affluent homes, and the parents are separated and there's not a father figure there, I think you see the same negative impacts. Now, unfortunately, if you don't have other resources available to you as well, either limited financially, educationally, and things, the problems that you experience from not having a father at home are going to be expounded. They're going to be magnified. But I think not having that presence in the home, period, is going to have some sort of impact on a child.
Parenting when you're single is much more difficult because you don't have balance. I tend to be very stern with my girls, and many times I wish that they had their father here only to be able to balance my personality and character. Clearly, there is a financial hardship associated with being a single parent. I'd say emotionally, it puts the burden on me to be both bad cop and good cop. You know, interestingly enough, when I think about parenting with two adults in a marriage, it's just ironic that there's not that many examples in my midst. It's almost like it's become the norm. I would say most of the women in my circle, both immediate and kind of indirect, most of them are parenting their children alone.
A child needs nurture, a child needs instruction, a child needs some point of reference. And the alienation that grows in a child who has no sense of where they came from, and that alienation plays out in some horrible ways.
You know, we have a lot of African American children who are very talented, except they can't escape their circumstances.
I didn't have a dad, so I dealt with a lot. I was angry as a kid. I mean, I was a real angry I was like a spiteful little kid. You know, so just a big ball of emotions and don't know what to do with it. You know, putting on that red shirt, it gave you a sense of pride. It was true, because when you was in a part of the neighborhood, you felt on the inside of something. I mean, you have an individual, man, I don't know this cat a year in my life, but this cat will go to the end of the road for me. You know what I'm saying? He will put his life on the line for me. That right there is a camaraderie that don't come on a day-to-day basis.
There was a club right around the corner from my house called the 2600 Club. And, you know, that's just where those dudes would be, you know. And they would let us go in there and drink with them and play pool with them. And so you want to be that. You want to have the big hat with the feather. You want to be on the corner. You want to be on the block like them dudes.
And there are men who have fathered children who could help them emerge from those economic circumstances.
As a kid, it wasn't no little school fight, let me fight for your skateboard. Nah, these cats was putting metal in kids' necks at my age. After a year seeing that type of thing every day, it was, when you went to school, you expected that to happen already. It wasn't the shock of like, somebody got stabbed today. It was, who gonna get stabbed today? You know, I never got that innocence back. You know, as a child, 9, 10, 11 years old, man, we ain't supposed to have those type of kids in the world. You're not supposed to be worrying about what weapon to take to school to protect, to defend yourself. Like, those are not things we should be dealing with. And that's the things that I was dealing with as a child. So, you know what I mean, it had a damaging, like, impact on my life then and my life, you know, for the next, you know, decade or so.
When I come back, more of Fox Soul's Father's Day special from Fatherless to Fatherhood. Don't you go away. I don't want you to miss this. We'll be right back.
So far, what I got from this interview is
Hollywood Unlocked, Uncensored.
Candy is the mean girl who went behind your back and conspired to f you over.
I didn't say that, you did.
every Thursday.
Portia should run a valet service for the Africans in Atlanta because she knows where all the Rolls Royces are. Eva Marcel should have showed people the shoebox.
On Fox Soul.
Jason, you tried it, honey. You just put words in my mouth. I didn't say any of those things, you know?
Today, we celebrate Juneteenth, which commemorates the end of slavery in the United States. This is an American holiday. You see, the Emancipation Proclamation was actually signed January 1st, 1863, but it wasn't until June 19th, 1865 that all of the states granted their slaves freedom. So on that same day in 1866, Juneteenth was celebrated for the very first time. Now look, we've come a long way as a country, but there's still a long way to go. Recognition, open, honest conversations, and visibility for the historical moments that impact not just Black Americans, but all Americans is a part of that journey. So today, let's celebrate freedom. It's okay to acknowledge the hate, the trauma, the disparities that came from hundreds of years of slavery. It's okay because that's part of the process of creating a better present and a better future for all Americans. All lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Black history matters. Let's move forward together.
Yes! That's when you know somebody can sing, when they can just do an acapella and kill it.
Cocktails with the Queens.
Why you ain't take me with you to the White House?
I was looking for you. They said you was already booked.
That was quick.
Every Monday night.
Your next videos, you need to have all the throwbacks, so like the Queens and one of your...
Yes! Get us a job, Claudia.
I'm about that, so don't be shy when I call you.
I ain't gonna be booked this time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Fox Soul's Father's Day special, From Fatherless to Fatherhood. Let's talk about something a lot of people won't mention. What does it really mean to be a father? You know, when it's all said and done, what makes somebody a father and what makes somebody your dad is the investment and the direction that they provided to your life. And that man may not have even given you the drops of life, but can still be your father in ways that your biological father never will. Over the course of life, you will have many fathers. None of us have just one. You have the one that allowed you to physically be here. Yes, we tip our hat and salute that great work. But you have other fathers, men along the way, who speak into your life, who encourage you, who move you, who makes your soul stand up and remember who it is and who you are. We honor the men who do that. And that's why we're showing you this. So now, let's get back to the Father's Day Fox Soul special, From Fatherless to Fatherhood.
Because I had to protect myself, I feel like I lost that softness. I never had a chance to fully embrace, you know, that softness of being a woman. Like, I always had to have that hard front up. I feel like if I had my father there, I could have released a lot of that tension with him just by telling him, but just disclosing, like telling him what was going on. And I really believe that a lot of things wouldn't have happened if my dad was there to protect me.
I started to get used to him not being there. You know, I think I was more so looking for that mate or that guy I was dating to be there, and I expected him to be there, and I put a lot on his shoulders to be there, but I think he was filling that space, or whoever I was dating needed to fill that space that with my father being gone. And after I had a son of my own, that I started to realize the second my son was born, he took my breath away. Like I felt completely like I did a 20-mile run and he was my glass of water. Like I was so crazy over my son. And I couldn't understand how he could have been my dad and not be crazy over me. When I dated those boys in the street, the reason why I feel like I was so attracted to those boys is when I was with them, they made me feel safe. They made you feel like I got you. You know, it's really weird. I don't know how to explain it, but when you with a guy in the street, it's like kind of like if you date in the mafia. It's like they will probably do so much wrong out in the street, but when it comes to their family or their familia, like, you know, this is my family. You got to respect them. So when I was around those type of dudes, they had this certain kind of respect for me, and they made sure everybody around me respect me. Like, this is my woman. And that made me feel like I was theirs, like kind of like, and in a way it was. It probably wasn't in a good way because it's kind of like I was their they possessed me. It was a possession, kind of like, you're mine. When usually a woman should say, I am my own. I belong to myself. I was happy to belong to him because it was the first man I was belonging to. So even though he ruled me, told me what to do, when I was going, when I was going to come home, he would even tell me shut up, and I would shut up. You know, as much mouth I have, I wasn't using my mouth because I knew he'd probably slap the face off me. You know what I mean? But at the same time, that was like my boo.
When girls grow up, it's equally as detrimental to girls as guys, as boys, when they grow up without a father, because they seek that father figure in some men. And if you had a really bad role model as a father, you kind of like are drawn to those same type of individuals, because you wonder why my father doesn't love me? Why isn't he around? Why isn't he whatever? And you kind of like are kind of like drawn towards the same kind of, you know, guys, you know, that your father was. And usually the guys that are abusive to you and have abusive relationships, and you just follow that cycle around, you know. You have kids and this guy disappears too. And so basically it's an unending circle.
And get to a point in our own like love relationships with our husbands or boyfriends, if it impacts us in any way. Because I know that I've become so independent, like watching my mother take care of 6 girls on her own, that I'm so independent that I feel like I don't need you. So if you're here, you're here. But if you're not, I can do it without you. I mean, but you start thinking about, you know, after a while, those things that men you think would normally do.
Young men have to be taught, A, how to be men, and B, how to be fathers, because it's learned behavior over time. It isn't something that you acquire simply by reaching a certain age.
No selfish person can be a good parent. You simply cannot. Your kids will see it. At some point, they'll resent you for it.
I didn't have a dad, so when I was having my son, I was kind of like, how do I do it? And my mother told me, you know, it's just gonna come natural to you. Don't even worry about how you're gonna do it. But to me, I mean, in this last 2.5 years, it's been the most important, I would say a job, but it's the most important thing that I've encountered in my whole life. He just loves books, man. You read to him in constant, it helped his vocabulary incredibly. He speaks, I mean, you can hear how he speaks, and when he's around other adults, they meet him, they're like, how old is he? And we tell him, but he definitely takes pride in him. We've been collecting them. We have all of his books from when he was a baby up until, I mean, he's only 2 and he's like 2 3/4. He'll be 3 in April. But I mean, he'll run through the titles with you of what he likes. Which ones are we reading right now?
Just one.
And what else? Who is this?
George and Mon-Fri. This is another George and...
So I just want him to be whatever it is he wants to be. I can't really tell you because he's only 2.5, but I mean, who doesn't want a doctor, lawyer, you know? But I would love him to be whatever he wants to be. When I found out I was gonna become a father, I basically became selfless. You know, I knew that my life, I had lived my life completely, and that I had to live my life now for my wife and for my son. Like every day now would be, you know, I would be, you know, there's no more time to party, no more time to hang out with the fellas like I used to. I mean, I didn't want to, once I knew I was gonna have a child, all of that kind of just gradually, not even gradually, it just stopped. You know, you can miss the youth, or you miss like these years, 2 and 3 years old, and not be there when the kid is born, and you miss all of this. You miss him walking, you miss him talking. I mean, you're missing major things in a kid's life that, I mean, you just can't get it back if you miss it.
I was told that I would be cursed with daughters. I don't quite know what that means, but you know, I knew I always wanted to be a father. I just wanted healthy kids, and I'm, you know, happy with my 2 daughters.
And he teaches us when I was nervous when I was going to the first day of school, I met my first friends, and that was fun. So Daddy was right.
I think a lot of people have children before they're ready, and they're still growing up themselves.
How old are you?
5.
Somewhere.
How tall are you?
Where's your cable provider?
I don't know. We haven't marked in a long time. I used to be like this tall, and Daddy's all the way up here, and she's this tall. She's this tall now.
I just want to know what they're going to be when they grow up.
Well, I want to be lots of things: teacher, dancer. I want to be a singer when I grow up.
Where they're going to go to college. Your contribution in life should be, one thing should be through your children, right? If you're not there to ensure that they become responsible, caring, committed, emotionally well adults, you're doing a disservice to your fellow man, really. The father who's absent from his children's life, well, I would say this, you miss out on joy. You miss out on daily nuances. You miss out on laughs. You miss out on just feeling proud. I look forward to the day-to-day, man. It's just like, things that go on in the future and day-to-day. How are you going to do on this report, With my little one, is she going to be, the belle of the ball, in her little class play? So day to day I look forward to it, and I also look forward to the big things. I want to be the person that I'd like to see my daughters with. So many of my adult female friends who never had that in a man growing up, I want to give my daughters that. Hopefully that'll give them an advantage in, their pursuit of happiness. That's one thing that they don't have to worry about. I know what a good guy is. My father was a good guy, and that's what I'm looking for.
I have to take a break, but more of Fox Soul's Father's Day special from Fatherless to Fatherhood is coming up next.
I'm the calmest person in the room. It could be earthquake, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna think through it.
I don't believe that, Jeezy.
Worth a conversation with Jeezy.
I don't believe you from the East Coast. We're in the middle of an earthquake on the West Coast, and you were cool.
My first state of mind is when things go wrong, is how do I better prepare?
Every Wednesday.
Did you get a I Survived the Earthquake t-shirt after?
I did not, but when I called my homies, it was like, you need to move back to Atlanta.
I'm sure
You need to come on back home, man.
On Fox Soul.
The COVID-19 vaccines can be our chance to get back to our plans, who we are, what we miss, to get back to each other, to life. But it's okay to have questions, like, how were the vaccines tested? In rigorous clinical trials among adults of diverse backgrounds. Can the vaccines give you COVID-19? You cannot get COVID-19 from a vaccine. Why should I get vaccinated? Protecting yourself also helps protect the people around you. Find the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org.
Let's welcome my brother from another, D1 in the building. Hey!
Fox Soul presents The Mix.
This just feels great, y'all. Like, I count my blessings every day I wake up, and it's a big one right here, so I'm thankful.
Every Tuesday night.
I gotta congrats you, man. You a homeowner, ballin'.
How they know that? Who said that?
On Fox Soul.
The Mix must have some private investigators, because y'all know stuff that... I'm embarrassed right now, because I did not know all my business was out there, but yeah,
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean, and this is Fox Soul's Father's Day special from Fatherless to Fatherhood. So let's talk about something that really gets on my nerves and something that we really need to take out of our language. The notion of that they're fatherless children. There's no such thing, as far as I'm concerned, to fatherless children. There may not be a father in the house or a father in your life, but all of us have been fathered. In the same way, there's no such thing as an illegitimate child. No child is illegitimate. What we have to understand is that being a father or having a father is more than just a person or a particular person in your space or in your house. It is an overall sensibility. It is a covering that many men participate in creating for us. I didn't have a father in my house. I was raised by two 15-year-old parents who abandoned me, never met my father, probably never will. But I still was not fatherless. Mr. Boney, Mr. Stone, Mr. Witherspoon, Judge Joy, all of these men conspired together to create a covering of fatherhood around me and over me. And I'm here today because I had fathers. I had men who took the time to say, I see something in that boy. I believe in him. And if you've had that, even if your dad wasn't in the house, you've had a father, more than one, and all that you deserve.
You have to make the decision of trying to seek out people that you know are doing it right. And unfortunately, sometimes the challenge is the people that are doing it right, they're not always the sexy ones. You know what I mean? They are sometimes the swagless ones. They're sometimes the ones that the media won't catch. Because, you know, so many are in position where they've heard the right thing, but they still don't make the hard choice.
I modeled my behavior after my uncle. So wherever he went, he was in Montclair, so I was always being Montclair with my Uncle Bill. He moved to Kentucky. I spent the whole summer in Kentucky with Uncle Bill. He's the one that taught me how to play golf. He moved to California. I went to California every summer. So I always stayed with my Uncle Bill. But then I went to college at Morris. I got a phone call that my Uncle Bill had died. But just being around him, seeing he had this big, huge house. He always had Cadillacs, and he would always take me and show me like all these things. He was like telling me, he was like, well, I was like, well, how do you get all these things, Uncle Bill? And he would always give me a book. And he said, I got all these things from this. He's like, if you read, he's like, you can have all this stuff too. And me just listening to my Uncle Bill was the one that made me want to go to college, made me want to do well in school. Because I was like, well, I want the same things that my Uncle Bill had.
No matter what happens with me and his father, and I think a lot of black women do this, maybe a lot of women, but I speak from my experience with black women. No matter how much anger I have with his father, no matter what me and his father go through, I big his father up to him. I told his father, no matter what you have done to me, as long as you do not physically hurt my son, I will never take him from you. I removed myself from the relationship. But he's such an awesome father, and I told him, I would never hold my son up against you to get anything from you, whether it be child support, your attention, or anything else. I want you to be in my son's life.
Just be supportive. Be supportive. Don't ever, beat a guy up and tell him he's worthless. Always support him, encourage him, and he'll get out there and do the right thing. Don't push a guy away, man. When somebody's going through something, the worst thing you can do is kick him while they're down.
A lot of dates. People go on two, 3, 4 dates, and the next thing you know, somebody's pregnant.
That's a very interesting question, whether our community places enough value on fatherhood. Because to one degree, the value that we've placed on it has almost prompted us to put a negative aspect on it, to the degree that there's a certain attitude at times that you don't need a father in the home. You could do it without the man. All those things are true, and there's always going to be something we can always do without. But sometimes it gets to a dangerous level that we minimize the importance of fatherhood. And I think at the same time we have to instill the value base that a father is an important figure, and fatherhood is an important thing, and it's not some fungible thing that, hey, if the father doesn't happen to be there, it'll be okay. You do want to, again, I don't want to be misunderstood to saying that it's not important that you be able to overcome that situation when the father's not present, and a household that doesn't have a father can't be successful. All of those things are true as well, but at the same time, we can't let that be a knee-jerk response to say that we're going to minimize the importance of fathers, period, because that's a resource that we shouldn't want to see go away completely.
Men and women should consider their finances, their faith, and all of their other plans before having children. we unfortunately are often attracted to each other physically. And so if a man likes the way a woman looks, or if a woman likes the way a man looks, the assumption is that there is a chemistry that requires a sexual encounter. And unfortunately, sex is ultimately the smallest part of a relationship if it is to be meaningful, not only for the two people involved, but for the offspring from that relationship.
Did everything the correct way. Went to school, graduated, met my future wife, dated for a while, then we got married, then we decided to have kids. So we did everything in a proper order. The way I met my wife is I was driving in South Orange, New Jersey one day, and it was kind of hot out, and someone was having a pool party, so I decided to crash the party. And the entire time I was there, I saw Ronnie on the other side of the pool, and I knew I was going to meet her before I left. So we ended up talking, and we walked out together, and she just happened to be going to, I think she's going to the beach the next day with her girlfriends. So I said, well, before you go, you can give me a kiss. She looked at me like I was crazy because I had just met her. So, but she didn't give me a kiss, but she did call me, I think, the next day or 2 days later. And we've been together ever since.
Challenges of not having a father, it felt like I was the outcast in school. Everybody else had dads, and I distinctly remember in 4th grade, it was time to make Father's Day cards. And, all the children started, collecting the construction paper and the scissors and the glue, and, they started putting their cards together. And one little girl, she came over to me and she says, well, I know you don't have a father, but you can make a Father's Day card for my father, And I was like, well, I don't need to make one for your father. I can make one for my uncle, Growing up without a father, I wanted to be sure that when I got married, if I ever did get married, that I wanted to be sure that my husband and I had dated for a while and was married for a while before we would think about having children. And I wanted to, be sure that he was, going to be around. Just by, holding down a job, is he going to be there for me? Is he a kind person? I just wanted to be sure that we were established as a couple first before we thought about ever having children. Mackenzie having her father here in her life is completely different. It's something, I see things every day that remind me about how I didn't have a father when I grew up.
Some people always think that, you get married, it's going to be perfect. And it's going to be like the Cosby Show, and every episode is going to have a good ending. People have to understand it takes work to have a marriage. And Ronnie and I have been married for 14 years, been together for 2 years, so we've been together for 16 years now. And within that 16 years, there have been times that we've loved each other. And there have been times, I don't want to say we hated each other, but we've had rough patches. We've gone to marriage counselors several times. We went to one that I loved, but Ronnie didn't like him, so the black guy. Oh. So he was the best counselor, but Ronnie didn't like him, so we had to switch counselors.
He wasn't saying the right thing.
But it's just the fact that I know in my family that divorce is not an option. And no matter what happens, we're gonna work through it. We're gonna talk it out. We're gonna go seek counseling, read books, do whatever. But I'm not breaking up this family, and nothing's gonna break up this family. And Mackenzie's never gonna experience not having a mother and father.
I'm divorced from my daughter's mother. We've been divorced since 2008. We got married in 1998. We had been friends since we were kids, and just like a lot of marriages, certain things happen where you decide, that staying in the marriage is probably not the best thing. We had 2 beautiful daughters. It certainly wasn't our plan to get divorced, but, through a rocky period of trying to figure out what our post-divorce was going to look like with custody and everything, was really a hard time for the both of us. Since that time, I would say since the divorce, we've really tried to work to get to a point of working as a unit, even though we're separate, and trust me, it's not easy, but, we both made a commitment to each other to continue to do that.
We go to the park in the summer and the spring, and he takes us on our scooters. Daddy, did you ever get in trouble?
Not big trouble. I tried to be a good boy.
So you did get in trouble?
Not big trouble.
But in trouble.
What trouble are you talking about?
The things that make Dad great are his personality, his sense of humor, how he treats us, and he's a really good cook.
What do you have to say?
Well, I would say that he's Dad great. I don't know what to say.
Who do I get my lead from as far as parenting? You know, I really look at my own parents. I look at what I felt were mistakes they made and the good things they did. I feel lucky in that, a lot of people grew up without both their parents in the home. I had both my parents. I got to see how they interacted. Their mom is a book hound, and so am I.
Education is the key, and it was the key in my home and still is. I think children have to grow up in an environment where books are displayed, books are read, and they are encouraged to read.
The girls see that constantly. I always have a book with me. Their mom always has a book with her, and they just pick it up honestly, So it just goes to show that, you don't actually have to tell your kids something. You can show them just by your own actions, and I just think that's pretty much what it was, Education, especially for my girls, is important. Just because of what it can do for you. I'm a child, I want to say, of the civil rights movement. If you were born in the late 60s, early 70s, your parents were likely a part of that movement. And, education was the one thing that separated where they were to where they wanted to be. The world opens up to you the more education you have. So right now, our custody situation is the girls stay with their mother half the time. They stay with me half the time. They're back and forth, and we live very close. We live less than 3 miles apart in the same school district. That's on purpose, When their mom has things to do, she calls on me. When I have things to do, I call on her. We try to be as cooperative as possible, and really, man, I hope it continues with that trend. You know what I mean? We're working well together, and it's good for the girls. It would just be so much more difficult if, I lived in New York City or their mom moved somewhere else or something like that. Every now and again, my girls will ask me, what I guess isn't an odd question, but if mommy had an accident, would you help her? Absolutely, I would help. But I love your mom, just like I love you. Even if we're not together, we are still family. That's the bottom line. Kids are just better off. They're just happier, and your situation is happier. It's easier, I'm telling you, it's easier to have a partner in parenting than to try to do it all by yourself, or to have an adversary for the rest of their, childhood. It just doesn't make any sense. Why not have a friend in helping, parent your children?
Don't you go anywhere, because more Fox Soul's Father's Day special from Fatherless to Fatherhood is coming up next.
I'm gonna tell you this one time. I'm gonna marry her, and I don't ever want to catch you with her again.
Fox Soul's Screening Room, hosted by Vivica A. Fox.
I named the characters after my parents. It's something that helped ground me in the writing process. I was able to center it in some ways around the purest version of love that I know.
Featuring the next wave of Black filmmakers.
Why can't I be more? Why do I never fit the description?
Spoken word is an underrated art form. It's basically hip hop, but it doesn't have to rhyme.
Just hold your breath like you holding your tongue against equality. Why can't I be more?
Hear the stories behind the stories.
I had this idea of being lost in a book.
And I wanted to portray that in a very metaphorical way.
Every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on Fox Soul.
Hey Soulmates, I'm Brooke from Fox Soul's Black Report. We cover the most important issues affecting Black America, from Capitol Hill to Main Street. We've got you covered. Right, 4 years, and he didn't get it done.
He didn't get anything done. He didn't get the wall done.
We're giving you a voice, whether it's Black excellence, social justice issues, HBCUs, politics, everything in between.
Those questions were not answered, and I am still coming for them.
Check us out on Fox Soul's Black Report, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
I'm the calmest person in the room. It could be an earthquake, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna think through it.
I don't believe that, Jeezy.
Worth a conversation with Jeezy.
I don't believe you from the East Coast. We're in the middle of an earthquake on the West Coast, and you were cool.
My first state of mind is when things go wrong, is how do I better prepare?
Every Wednesday.
Did you get a I Survived the Earthquake t-shirt after?
I did not, but when I called my homies, it was like, you need to move back to Atlanta.
I'm sure
you need to come on back home, man.
On Fox Soul.
Welcome back to From Fatherless to Fatherhood. I'm Dr. Sean, and I hope you've been enjoying our Father's Day special, From Our Heart to Yours, because we care about dads, and we care about family, and we care about Black folks loving each other. Fathers represent something so true and so special, and I think it's about time we start uplifting and highlighting the beauty and the power of great men who dare to be dads. Because anybody can sleep with a woman, but it takes the hell of a man to take a boy and turn him into what you are. It's a powerful thing. And that's what we need to honor. And we honor the women in our lives who have had to step in and do things because men were not there. But don't you ever forget that a boy caught in the milky malaise of masculinity needs to look into the eyes of someone in whom he can see himself. So back to our Fox Soul's Father's Day special, From Fatherless to Fatherhood. We got some more for you.
One day, he called me, and I thought it was like a joke, like I was being punked or something, because somebody just called and said, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm like, who's this? And he's like, it's your father. And I'm like, you're right. You know, and he's like, it's your dad. And I'm like, stop playing, whatever. I'm going to hang up the phone. Like, really, like, who is this? And he's like, Ella, it's your dad. And I just started crying, like on key, boom. As soon as I really knew it was him, it's like, I just started crying because it was the first phone call I ever had from my dad in my life. And he was like, it's okay. And I was just like, no, it's not. You know what I mean? Like, who calls me out of the blue? I haven't heard from you all my life and just be like, hey, how you doing? You know? So after that, he would slowly but surely try to reach out to me, call me. You know, he realized my brother was very much in my life, and he was very much in my brother's life. And it's funny because my brother ended up marrying one of my friends, one of my close friends, and she has 2 kids from him. And my father would go and get her kids and take them to the movies. He's even gone over there to bring her money for the kids. And she tells me, oh, your father was just over here. He brought me like $500 to help with the kids. And I'm so jealous because I'm like, how you giving to them? You never given me nothing. Like, you giving to your grandkids. I understand these are my niece's nephew, my only niece and nephew. And I want them to have whatever they're supposed to have, but how can I be happy for you that he's coming to get your kids to take them to the movies? He's never even took me to the store. You know, I've never even driven in a car with him. I don't even know what he smelled like, you know? So that was hard for me to swallow, but he's trying to be in my life. It's hard for me to let him in. It's like when I deal with my father now, I honestly, and I know this is weird, but I honestly look at him like a man that did me wrong, like a boyfriend. Like, I don't look at him as a father figure. I look at him because the only thing I have to compare him to is guys that I've dated. Those are my only encounters with men are boyfriends. So my only experiences with guys are guys that I have dated and how they have treated me and how I know I want to be treated and how at this age, how I know I deserve to be treated.
Because if we don't raise them, someone else will. And the question is, who is that someone else? it may be someone who does not love our children. It may be someone who sees our children as a problem. And so our children get dealt with like a problem.
Well, I'm getting married in a few weeks. And my dad, biological dad, wants to walk me down the aisle.
Don't go anywhere, people. We'll be right back with more Fox Soul's Father's Day special from Fatherless to Fatherhood. I'm enjoying this.
What up, soulmates? It's your boy Romeo, and I gotta tell you, Fox Soul's Black Report is the place to be. It's the spot where we bring you headline news from Black America's perspective.
No other vaccine in history has been monitored like this one.
It's where Black Lives Matter is a daily conversation, and we celebrate the young, gifted, and Black. It's our voice and our truth.
Looking for a mentor, see how you can add value to them, because you don't want to just take. It's a two-way relationship.
So check us out on Fox Soul's Black Report Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific.
I'm gonna tell you this one time. I'm gonna marry her, and I don't ever want to catch you with her again.
Fox Soul's Screening Room, hosted by Vivica A. Fox.
I named the characters after my parents. It's something that helped ground me in the writing process. I was able to center it in some ways around the purest version of love that I know.
Featuring the next wave of Black filmmakers.
Why can't I be more? Why do I never fit the description?
Spoken word is an underrated art form. It's basically hip hop, but it doesn't have to rhyme.
Just hold your breath like you holding your tongue against equality. Why can't I be more?
Hear the stories behind the stories.
I had this idea of being lost in a book, and I wanted to portray that in a very metaphorical way.
Every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on Fox Soul.
For the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th time, I think it is, they are talking about divorce. I'm talking about Erica Mena and Safari.
TGIF.
I'm so tired of both of them. Safari is a complete cornball. And Erica, like Portia told Kenya, you are old hoe from the 90s.
Every Friday night.
Al, would you have a threesome with them?
I think I would, to be honest, yes.
I felt that.
I just want to stand in the corner and record it.
On Fox Soul.
Oh my God, I just turned red.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Father's Day special from Fatherless to Fatherhood. And as I think about my own journey as a dad, I'm reminded of all the fathers who long to be with their children but can't. All the ones who, through circumstances dealing with mass incarceration, financial reasons, or conflicts with their moms, or the mothers of their child, I should say, their children, I should say, they're not able to be with their children. But one of the things we always have to remember is that before there was a child, there was a relationship with a woman. And they can be complicated, and they can be cumbersome, and they can downright be preventive. Our heart today goes out to all the dads who are yearning to be more present and desiring in their souls to be more firmly fixed to the souls of their children. My word to you is don't you dare give up, and don't you dare turn back on what you believe to be your destiny and your future. You may not be able to do it now, but that's okay. Sooner or later, it's going to work out. And your children need to know that even when you could not be in their presence, they were still in your heart and in your mind. They will bear witness to what you tried to do as long as you keep trying to do it. I know it's difficult. I know you want to throw in the towel, but this fight is worth it. Some mountains aren't worth the trouble of climbing even if you conquer them. But some valleys are worth the trouble of going through, even if you die in the middle. Your children are worth it, and so are you. Keep going, because this day is all about you, and you deserve this day. I hope you're enjoying this powerful documentary as much as I am. And now the conclusion, from Fatherless to Fatherhood.
If you don't have a father figure in your life, it's definitely going to be difficult. I feel as if there's enough mentors, enough people out here who realize that, who will help you. You just got to go and search and find them. But we need our fathers here. I'm not going to say, like, you can do it and how you can do it. Nah, like, we need to be men. The real definition of man is to take care of people. We need to take care of our own children. I mean, there's so many exceptions to the rule, but those are exceptions. We can cut all of that if we just become men and start to take care of our own communities and our own families.
Every single one of us knows somebody who is not there for their children. They could be our friend, they could be our brother, they can be whatever their relationship is to us. We're close enough to them to say to them, look, bruh, we're your kids, man. Every single time we allow a man to live a life without his child, he is not a father. And we are therefore co-conspirators in that child's demise. That child it should have some level of resentment towards us too. Because the father didn't do it by himself. Somebody should have told that brother and made that brother feel like he wasn't doing the right thing. Can't come to your house and play PlayStation. He can't come to your house and do any of these things that he wants to do. He can't go out to the club with you. He can't do anything with you until he takes care of his chores. Just like when he was a child, he couldn't leave the house, couldn't play outside with you until he took care of his chores. He can't go outside until he takes care of his chores, which in this case is fatherhood.
The reason why I wouldn't give up, because first of all, I believe in God. Second of all, I always told myself if I was to give somebody something, because I did so much wrong in my life, why not give it to my children? My children deserve it. They didn't ask to be here, but while they're here, I will try to give them the best love I can. But all I know, it's a struggle through the abuse, I know that, but anything is possible with God. It just takes time. And I don't know how much time I have.
This is good, man. I hope this documentary helps some guys open their eyes up. They're not connected with their kids, get connected with them. It's never too late. Kids are forgiven. You know, no matter what you're going through in life, you never abandon your children.
If you have a dream, or your son or daughter should have a dream in life, I think as a parent you should do all you can to support them, and one day it might work,
I got a little philosophy for myself, is that you have to be present to parent. Otherwise, you cannot do it.
Well, I decided to have Alante walk me down the aisle because regardless of what I went through and, all the trials and tribulations that have happened in my life, the one thing that has been consistent with me, the one thing that has never changed is my son.
This has been a Kobe Chronicle.
And action. It's cut when you're done. Cut.
For additional resources or to learn more, please visit us online at www.tofatherhood.com.
I want to thank you for joining me tonight to honor fathers and the journey of fatherhood here on Fox Soul. This documentary, From Fatherless to Fatherhood, represents the best, the triumph, the travail, the highs and the lows, the joys and the sorrows of what it means to dare to be a father to a child. My last word to you tonight is not to the fathers that are, it's to the fathers that are about to be, the ones that are on the way, the ones that want to be fathers, the ones that don't even realize that they're about to become one, the ones that don't know about it yet, and the ones that have not yet dared to imagine the responsibility of giving birth or helping to give birth to a child. It is to you that we dedicate this final word because we need you. We need you to stand. We need you to grow. We need you to come up out of the travail of American craziness and to take your place in the great seat that you were born to sit in. We need you to raise a generation that will be greater still than all of us, that will remind us of why it is we dare not to give up in the middle of this American nightmare. To the fathers of the future, the ones who are to come, I tip my hat to you, and I say to you in advance, well done. You're going to make mistakes. You've already made them, and you will make more again, but it doesn't matter. What's inside of you and what's ahead of you is greater than what you've already done. Do you not know that what might come out of you might have the power to change the whole world? All that we're waiting for may come out of you. That's the joy of what we celebrate today. I'm excited about your future. I can't wait to see what you're about to give birth to. And I love you for trying. Thank you for watching tonight. Be sure to watch me on foxhole.tv, Roku, Tubi, Samsung TV Plus, and YouTube. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Y'all be good to each other. I love you.
Break it on.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Jeezy Jenkins,